Hi everyone, it's Katya from katya.coach, and I'm sitting here in front of a group painting that we all did yesterday. It's a little wacky, but it's bringing me a lot of joy today. And it was a party. We had some grown-ups and we had kids, and I can see everyone's little touches. And you can see on the upper left there, it says, "Sup, sup, bro." And I think that was my son that wrote that. I'm pretty sure. So, okay, so this video is really targeted toward anyone who experiences or struggles with binge eating, even just overeating or compulsive eating, even emotional eating. It can be called emotional eating, but I'm going to challenge that a little bit today. So let's just start. The premise that I'm working from is that we are multidimensional beings, right? We're not just this body. We're this body, and we're something else that animates the body with intelligence. We can call it the soul. We can call it the spirit. We can just call it energy. So from that perspective, the body is not just a mechanism. It actually has intelligence. It's alive. It's not simply a computer with commands, with a system of commands. It actually has an intelligence that far surpasses what we can cognize at this point, what we can, understand and encompass rationally. So oftentimes something that our body does or that we do, we think it's crazy, or it's totally irrational, or even it's wrong. And oftentimes we find all sorts of reasons for it. We go to therapy, right? Why? Is it something from my childhood? And we try to find the reason why we're doing something that looks really wrong to us. And I think what we maybe know innately, or intuitively, maybe not, is that actually we have exquisitely good reasons for doing what we do, extraordinarily good reasons. There's always a good reason. So if we believe, if we take as our basis and our foundation and as our ground that the body is infinitely intelligent, often much more intelligent than just our limited beliefs and the body of knowledge that we've amassed throughout this lifetime, right? Which is limited, very, very limited. So if our bodies are extraordinarily intelligent and fueled and animated by something that is still, frankly, a mystery, but we take it to be connected to source, then we can understand that the body gives us signals. It gives us messages of what it wants. So, at any given moment, we have the opportunity to really, really get in touch. If we learn this skill, which is really a kind of unlearning or going back to, and learn how to really listen to what the body is saying to us. And I'm calling it the body, but it's really our being telling us what it really wants, what it really necessitates, what would really nourish and feed it at any given moment. And if we really tap into that, if we really clear the channel for that connection and then trust it, then life will be a lot easier. We can live in what's often called the flow, or a flow state, and really life can be a lot easier where we're not constantly filtering everything so heavily through the mind. And I'm not poo-pooing the mind or logic or anything like that. I just think that we really, really overdo it when it comes to logic and rationale. And sometimes we use it in areas that where it's actually not the best tool to use. So if we take that as our ground, our being is intelligent, our being is giving us messages of what it really wants and needs. So where do we go wrong? Why would we ever do something like a behavior like stuffing ourselves, which seems so obviously self-harming? It seems so obviously like it can't be good for us. Why would we do that? Well, this isn't the only perspective to look at it from. I do feel that there's, an emotional piece that we can talk about in it. That's the subject of a different video. For today, I want to talk about, and I think we can all relate to this, relate our experience to this in some way. I want to talk about two parts to the process of giving our body what it needs. So our bodies might have a need. Our being has a need, right? We are in a body and we need food. We need nourishment, at least at this point in our evolution, for most humans on the earth, in order to survive and to thrive and to keep on living and creating. So our bodies ask us for something, and there's that pure message of wanting what it wants. And then there are two parts to the body getting what it wants. So let's just go back for a moment. So the body's asking for what it wants, and it will keep asking because it's infinitely intelligent. It will keep asking until it gets what it wants. So in a very, very simple model, what I'm saying is that if we're overeating, if we're overindulging, if we keep on eating and we're not feeling satiated, at the very basic level, our body is not getting what it really needs. It's not getting what it really needs. Now, there are two parts to this, two areas where we could be going wrong. The first area is we have to give the body what it needs. And the second area is the body has to receive that which it needs, okay? So let's talk about these two things separately. The first, the body getting what it needs. So I'll use an example from this morning. So this morning I wake up, it's spring, and in the spring, in the part of the country where I live, in Colorado, we sort of go through this process of a tug of war kind of between winter and spring, where one day is, 70s Fahrenheit and it's warm and sunny, and the next day it's rainy and cold again. So this morning I woke up rainy and cold, and I've sort of had this breakfast that I've been eating that's been working for some time now. And it's been working when the days are warm, which they largely have been. And that breakfast consists of eggs and some yogurt and some fruit and some nuts. Okay, so I wake up and I have this hit, and my hit is I want some of that leftover soup from the party last night that's in the fridge. I made this lentil and rice soup that was in my fridge, and I had this flash that my body wanted to eat that, but I overrode it, which can be so insidious, and it can happen so quickly before you even catch it, right? So, and I overrode it, and I said, soup? You want soup for breakfast? No. We're going to have breakfasty things. We're going to have what we usually have. It's been working fine. I didn't even take into consideration the weather, even though, right, I've studied Ayurveda, I've been doing, health coaching for 9 years, and, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm in a rut in my mind, right? This is the limited beliefs that I'm talking about. And the habitual pattern. So I wake up and I have my breakfast. I'm eating my breakfast. My body loves the eggs. They're warm. And I'm eating the yogurt, and my body's just kind of like, doesn't feel like it's getting anything. I don't feel my body receiving. But I keep eating the yogurt. Tastes good enough. Tastes good. I'm looking for that taste gratification. And I'm done. Lo and behold, I'm still hungry. So I keep eating yogurt, and I'm still hungry. And I add a little fruit, and I'm still hungry. Finally, I'm like, what is going on? I don't want this to turn into like a food fest, and I don't want to put my body through, having to process too much food here. So I'm really just kind of stumped. And I start to feel all these feelings of guilt and all those old feelings. You know it. If you've dealt with binge eating, you know those feelings of guilt. There's something wrong with me. Why can't I have self-control? Am I bad? Is my willpower function not strong enough? All of these thoughts start to come in. Now, I'm a little bit better at not believing that they're true now, a little bit, but they're very powerful, right? You know how powerful they are. So they start coming in. But I'm like a detective, I'm sitting there going, what's really going on? There's this other part of me that's just curious. And finally, my body's like screaming for the soup, and I get the soup pot out, and I say, okay, I'm just going to make you the soup. And so I'm warming up the soup. Thankfully, my son's at home, and he has a bowl of soup with me. Here's one other thing. I didn't want to have the soup because the soup is a little carby. It has rice in it. And so I had an idea in my mind that, I didn't want to eat carbs for breakfast, or I didn't want to eat, grains. So, so I warm up the soup, I eat it, and I'm full. I'm totally full. It's warm. It's cooked. Outside is cold. My body's welcoming it. And I don't know if, my body maybe also wanted that rice. I don't know. I don't know exactly, but it wanted that soup. And it was telling me that from this morning. It was giving me that clear message. But look what happened. I had an idea of what breakfasty foods should look like. I had an idea of what my taste receptors wanted to eat, even though that wasn't what my being really needed. And I had an idea of what was healthy, right? Carbs for breakfast isn't healthy. That was my idea. So there are all these different ways that we can go wrong in actually giving our bodies what they really, really need and want. Giving our being what it really needs and wants. And we second guess. And we think that we know better. And this is a constant game that the universe is playing with us, I think probably to teach us trust. But it's really interesting because, we can be very well-intentioned. We can read a blog online that says, it's bad for you to eat carbs in the morning, or, peanut butter is terrible for you. It's going to give you this and that ailment. But when our bodies really want that, as long as it's not like artificial food coloring, which my body doesn't have a resonance with that. It usually never asks for those things that are highly processed. But when they're, more or less whole foods, natural foods, more and more I'm coming to the place where I really feel like the formulas can really actually get us into trouble. That's where I'm coming from these days. So that's where we can go wrong with actually giving our body what it needs. And it's going to keep asking, right? And it's going to keep asking. And it's like me keeping on eating the yogurt and saying, why am I not full? Well, I wasn't giving it what it needed. Now, there's a second part, which is the body actually receiving. Where can we go wrong with this? Now, this is really interesting. So from what I've seen, we can just say something very simple like the digestive fire goes out, or, many of us don't have strong digestion because of stress. And those are true. And there can be much, much deeper spiritual reasons for why we're not receiving, why we're not accepting from the universe. And some examples of these, right? Very simple examples. And there are as many examples as there are people who struggle with this. Now, one example is, imagine in this lifetime or another lifetime, one was hurt somehow in the act of receiving. You can imagine something as extreme as like a rape case, right? Where there was something messed up with the giving and receiving dynamic. And someone was really hurt. One was really hurt in that process. Another example is the example of healers, right? Healers often will, and if they don't have very good boundaries yet, They will be constantly processing other people's emotions, which gets in the way of them actually processing their own nutrients in their body. So oftentimes healers will have an issue with overeating, and that has to do with them having boundaries and actually taking that time to regenerate themselves, where they separate themselves from the energy of others, and don't spend time processing it so that they can process their own nutrients. So these are some deep spiritual reasons why we might have a kink in the way that we actually receive nutrients, and we might need to do some spiritual work around that. And so that's, that's a journey in itself. And some very basic kind of suggestions that anyone with an issue receiving could use. Well, first of all, let me just go back to, how can you tell if you have an issue receiving? Well, one way is, do you have issues receiving in other areas of your life? Because really it's all one thing. Anything that is a theme in your life, it'll show up in different areas. You just have to really become a sharp detective and know how to look. For instance, with receiving, do you have difficulty receiving compliments, right? Somebody gives you a compliment and your immediate response is anxiety. It's, how do I pay that person back? If someone tells you, you look so beautiful today, and your response is, you look so beautiful too. Or, and you're just giving it back. You're not actually taking the time to receive, whereas actually receiving might just be, thank you. And not just thank you because I need to say thank you, but thank you, I really received that. That feels awesome. So that's receiving work. Maybe you have trouble. I had this for a long time. You have trouble attracting money. You have trouble attracting clients in your business. You have trouble attracting a mate. Your mate never tells you're beautiful, or they tell you you're beautiful and you don't know how to handle it. So look for themes in your life where you have difficulty receiving, where things just kind of bounce off of you. And maybe you feel really starved and destitute inside, but when you look around you, the universe might be trying to give you things, but there's a disconnect there. You're not receiving. So that's the other piece of it that can go wrong. So we could be giving our body food and the body's not actually receiving it. It can even be the right food, but if the body is not digesting anymore for whatever reason, it's not assimilating it, and then we're not getting it. Because here's the thing I want you to understand, is that if you were assimilating, you wouldn't be hungry. If your body is getting what it needs, I'm saying it even more basic level, if your body is getting what it needs, it's not going to ask you for more. It's intelligent. So why? We always want to ask why. Okay, so how do we solve that issue of receiving? Well, here are some kind of blanket overall ways that you can use. One is, the very first one, and they're not all mantras. The first one's a mantra. And it is simply, this is from the work of Tasha Silver, and it's exquisite. I love the simplicity. It's just, it is easy for me to receive. It is easy for me to receive. So you can say this as many times a day as you can remember. As you start saying it, you might find yourself in situations where you're getting challenged to receive. And you start remembering to say to yourself, it's easy for me to receive. It's easy for me to receive. So you're reminding yourself. This is really, really effective, folks. So that's just something I recommend in general. And a few other things. So you can just drink water with either lemon juice or apple cider vinegar or both. Sometimes I use, a tablespoon of each in like a mason jar size like this. Um, this has 24 ounces. Um, and just just the apple cider vinegar or the lemon juice will help your body to digest. There's another Ayurvedic remedy, which is really simple, of just shaking some sea salt um, and pepper, black pepper, into your water. That can also, black pepper can famously turn on digestion. But something else which is a little stronger that might be appropriate for some of you, and I want you to talk to your healthcare provider about this, is a digestive enzyme. So something like this. I don't work for this company. I'm not at all affiliated with this company, but these just happen to be the ones I use. So this is pancreatic enzymes from Vital Nutrients. But something like a pancreatic enzyme or a digestive enzyme is said to kind of retrain your body or remind your body how to digest. So this is something that I do myself, and I do all of those methods that I talked about, the mantra, the water, and the pancreatic enzymes. And I have seen a big improvement. And more than any of those things, the biggest lesson that I think we're all sort of being funneled toward as we evolve is to learn to listen to our inner being, to learn to listen to our inner voice. And this is really a process of unlearning, folks. It's really a process of unlearning all those messages that, that isn't to be trusted. And I know that that's a somewhat controversial topic, and yet I really do believe in the deep intelligence that that guides us on our path, and that if we really listen, if we really, really listen, that we can't go wrong, that it keeps on leading us back to our true path. That doesn't mean it's easy, because it's not, but it will be the right path for you. It will be the right path. And so as much as you can, I think my sort of ending statement of this video is true boundaries, true learning to listen to yourself is really a process of trusting your body, trusting your being, and healing that relationship. So that's all for me today. If you have comments, I love to read them. And you can find me at katya.coach. That's all for now.